Hello, welcome to Jurassic Park 3 Minutes. We'll be discussing the second Jurassic Park sequel 1 minute at a time. I'm Brad. And today we're back after some technical difficulties to bring you minute 16 of Jurassic Park 3. David, we did lose some recordings last week, so that's why we had to skip a week, but because of that we haven't got Black Friday to talk about. Instead, Lego Jurassic World The Secret Exhibit aired last week on HBO, I think it was.
For me, it was NBC.
Okay. Yep. I think that changed a bit across the country.
Yeah. It's owned by Comcast, and as is Universal, so.
Ah, yep. Yep. So, did you get a chance to see it?
Yes, I did.
I've only seen sort of some brief clips on YouTube, which are all, of course, out of sequence and that, but it looked like fun and sort of reliving much what they'd done with the Indominus escape.
Yeah, it was actually. I thought it was a lot of fun. I thought that it was a little kiddish, but it had some nice, fun twist endings there. It made it fun. It was enjoyable to watch.
Hmm. Well, and that's the target audience too. They're selling these Lego sets to the kids, and
yeah, that is true.
I did see some comments, people thinking this was maybe the pilot for a new Lego series, but they've never done that anywhere apart from a couple of the movies for Star Wars. So I don't think we're going to get a TV series out of this.
No, but the ending does set it up for like a kind of. I'm not really sure if you would call it like maybe a like mini series, if you will, like just like little hour specials that they would have.
Well, that's what they do with other franchises, especially Star Wars, and they just have 45-minute to an hour long like mini movies.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking, and they'll just repeat those.
Which will be interesting to see. And we'll definitely be looking at it when they come out in future. Anything else you want to discuss before we get into today's minute?
No, I think we did that pretty well.
Don't get too excited, Billy. Chances are we won't see a thing.
Cooper, if you see anything, yell up!
No, I thought I'd keep it to myself.
As we ended minute 15 of Jurassic Park 3, the Kirby's chartered aircraft was flying high above the Pacific Ocean, heading south towards Isla Sorna. As we open on minute 16, Billy's checking his camera equipment, and Alan teases why he can't buy a better bag. At the 6-second mark, Billy tells Alan that the bag's lucky, and that 6 years ago he was hang gliding with some friends in New Zealand, and an updraft slammed him into the cliffs, and the one strap saved his life. At the 31-second mark, Billy thanks Grant for inviting him along. Grant replies, yeah, well, the bones will still be there when we get back. It's the great thing about bones, they never run away. And the truth is, he got him into the situation, and there's no way Alan's going to deal with these people alone. At the 52-second mark, Alan tells Billy not to get too excited. Chances are they won't even see a thing. And as the minute ends, he reclines his chair and puts his hat on his head and says, your time to play nice. As we open on minute 16, Billy's checking his camera equipment and putting it back into what is described as a tattered bag, but it doesn't look that bad on screen. But Grant looks at it and says, even with what I pay you, couldn't you afford a better bag?
Well, I mean, it's not, like you said, it's not tattered at all. It almost looks kind of brand new in a way. It reminds me a bit, when he says tattered, I kind of imagine more Sarah Lucky Pack kind of thing, you know?
Well, especially here, he replies, no way, it's my lucky, or this one's lucky. Sort of bringing back those memories of Sarah's Lucky Pack. And here we have Billy, he's got his own sort of lucky camera bag. More so for the strap more than the bag, that we'll get to in a minute, but it sort of goes back to the 90s, and even this is 2001, but even back to The Lost World with all the camera equipment. Nick was carrying around big duffel bag type camera bags, because of course back then everything was big and bulky. And sort of like nowadays you can get all this stuff that's sort of more compact and in backpack form and that. But Billy goes into why it's lucky. A couple of years ago, some buddies and he were hang gliding off some cliffs in New Zealand, and a big updraft come up and swept him right into the side, and he goes wham. And Alan looks confused and says, "Yeah, that does sound lucky." And he says it was this one strap alone that saved my life. It got hooked on a rock as he was falling. So again, it's not really the bag that's lucky, unless I don't know if you'd actually go. What was he doing? Hang gliding. I don't know if you'd go hang gliding with a big bulky bag like this wrapped around, or if it was just one of his harness straps that he's kept and is now using it to carry his bag with.
I imagine more the latter, just for that reason that you said, that there really no reason he would be carrying around a large camera bag of this style, you know?
Yeah. Especially since it's got a heap of different lenses and that in there that we see here, which he has a lot of equipment here for a student or someone in a dig site.
And there's another thing is, why would a paleontologist have all this camera equipment, you know?
Yeah, well, we don't see what happens between the date or the dinner and them getting to the plane, so you'd assume they've gone back home and packed for the trip, but Grant's sort of wearing similar clothes, and whether they went back to the university so they could get some equipment. Billy's just hit up the photography department and said, "Hey, I need to borrow some stuff, and you'll get first rights at processing it," or something like that.
I'm somewhat disinclined to believe that they actually went back to the university, if only because Grant is out here wearing a Carhartt jacket, and I mean, I know we've seen Malcolm do it, but Grant just never seemed to be the type to wear a Carhartt jacket to a tropical island. Even if he didn't expect to get out of the plane, I mean, you know, cabins aren't cold, you know? They really haven't been since the 40s.
Grant looks out the window and says, "Reverse Darwinism, survival of the most idiotic." And as he said, the plane sort of shudders, and there's a bit of a pain look across his face. We know from the script and the novel that he's been finding it hard to get comfortable in the plane with the tiny little seats, and dressed the way he is too, he'd be sort of uncomfortable like that as well.
Well, Carhartts are really built more for warmth. They're not at all really built for comfort. Their inner wool lining is really itchy, so yeah, that would definitely not help with you getting comfortable.
Yep. But Billy thanks Alan for letting him come along, and Alan says, "Yeah, well, the bones will still be there when we get back. That's the great thing about bones; they never run away." And he leans in close to Billy and says, "The truth is, you got me into this, and I have no intention of being alone with these people." Which just sort of goes back to how uncomfortable he sort of is flying, and just not knowing the Kirby's at all either. But Billy smiles and laughs, and Grant continues, "Don't get excited, Billy. Chances are we won't even see a thing." And he leans back in his chair and says, "Your turn to be nice, and wake me when we get there." And he reclines his chair and puts his hat over his face, which is very similar to what we've seen in other movies.
Yeah, I kind of felt that Johnston really wasn't sure how to evoke a direct, Jurassic Park and The Lost World had it very tonally. They were different, but they also remained consistent with each other in the way that they were this kind of high-tech stuff getting lost and just kind of not really being useful in the middle of the jungle. And Jurassic Park 3 was really where we started abandoning that kind of notion. And Johnston, I just don't think he knew what to do with Jurassic Park, so he ended up trying his best to just mimic other other Spielberg movies in a way that he just creates a bunch of Spielberg tropes into this movie.
Yeah, and here's one of the good ones where it's just straight up an Indiana Jones rip.
Yeah. Yeah, this, the hat thing is something that Indiana Jones does in Temple of Doom, where they're on an airplane and leans back and puts his hat over his face and takes a nap.
Mm.
And so you get that kind of repetition of that here in this scene. And this is not the first time that they kind of really put an emphasis on the brown fedora hat, which was always Indiana Jones' thing. He was particular to that one hat, and he would always go back for the hat. And at the end of the movie, when I think it was the soundtrack line, it was "The Hat Returns," and that's when, at the end, when Billy gives him his hat, and Billy tells him, "I saved your hat," and Grant sarcastically replies, "Well, that's the important thing."
Mm.
But still, there was just never this. In the first Jurassic Park movie, there was never an emphasis on Alan Grant ever missing his hat, and he even kind of just blows off his head and he leaves it there on the main road, and it's never brought up again. You know?